All right, it is 9:15. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everyone doing today? I want to wish you all a happy new year, and I hope you have lots of prosperity this coming year, 2020. 2021, 2020 was a little bit of challenging for a lot of people, so I want to make sure that we all are having wonderful vibes going into 2021. My name is Lynette Phillips. I'm with Second to None Human Resource Services, and I'm very happy to be with you this morning. Today, we're going to be talking about goal setting and planning made easy. But before we get started, I'd like you all to chat in what you're drinking today. All right, Amanda, thank you. You're drinking ice green tea. Love it, love it. Oh, let me start by telling you all what I'm drinking. I am drinking Starbucks blonde coffee blend. That is one of my absolute favorite blends of coffee to drink. So I want to share that. Anybody else want to share what they're drinking? And in the meantime, I'll let you know that I am recording this. You will find this on YouTube later on this week. So subscribe to my YouTube channel, Second to None HR, and there is already posted the last video from the conversation that we had. All right, Cindy, plain coffee. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So I want to make sure we are conscious of everyone's time. Anyone else want to share? Imani is drinking just plain coffee, as well as Sarah's drinking plain coffee. All right. So let's see. Today, it's going to be a little bit different than our normal conversations, but the process or the agenda will go as follows. I'll go through the topic. I'll give you the 3 tips. And then at the end, as I said in the past, there will always be a tip on DE&I, or diversity and inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion at the end of all of these conversations. All right, I just want to thank everyone for sharing your drink. And I'm going to tell you up front that you will see me taking on and off my reading glasses. So I'm going to apologize for that up front. And I'm going to get started. So when it comes to goal setting, and I know I said this in the advertisement, and you'll hear me say that a couple times during this conversation today, we often get overwhelmed before we even get started with the goal setting process. And one of the reasons why I want to share with you today is for our getting overwhelmed is, I don't know if you all have attended it, but I know a lot of you have. In the past, you've been taught in some shape, form, or fashion, but you've gone to some class, some supervisor has shared with you, when it comes to goal setting, you want to use an acronym, which is called SMART. And the SMART acronym just means it's going to be a specific, a measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely goal. So with that said, one of the things that most people do after they realize what their goal is that they want to do is they want to make them SMART. Now, I know for some people, it is difficult enough to come up with a goal. And when you compound on that you need to create a SMART goal. And then after you learned that you needed to create a SMART goal, you were told that your SMART goal had to be written a certain way. So your specific had to have certain words in it. When you made it measurable, you had to have timelines and what are you going to measure it against? So now people are thinking analytics. Then is it attainable? Is it something you can achieve in a realistic timeline? And who defines what realistic is? So all these things I know, if maybe not in your mind, I will use myself as an example. All those things went through my mind when I first learned this process. And the next thing was, is it realistic? So then I started thinking, okay, attainable, realistic, what really is the difference between those? But okay, I'm going to go with this. Is it realistic? Is it something that I can do? And then you had to create a budget. you know, because that was part of the process. You got to put in the goal, what the budget's going to be. How many people are you going to get involved in it? Are you going to pay those people? Are you going to just solicit those people? So all these things are flowing around in your head, and all you're thinking is, I just want to create a goal. I just want to put a goal down of what I'd like to accomplish. So, and then, but then in the class, it goes on, and after you learn to make a SMART goal and they teach you how to do it and how to craft it, they break you up into groups of 2, where you were supposed to sit with a partner, and the partner and you were supposed to come up with a goal using the SMART acronym. And if that's not bad enough for me, because I was always in a panic when it came to writing goals, if that wasn't bad enough, the instructor would often walk around and review your goals, and they'd say something like this: oh, you did a fantastic job. However, your goal didn't quite meet all the criteria for the SMART acronym. Can you go back and rework this goal? I mean, I'm telling you right now, I'm getting stressed out just thinking about the whole process. And so what I wanted to talk to you about today is, how are we going to make that SMART acronym realistic and workable for us in this fast-paced environment that we live today? A quick history is, in the past, people used to create lengthy goals. They'd create a goal for the entire year, and then they would make it SMART, and they would put all this time and invest all this energy into creating a goal, and they'd review it 6 months in, and they get to the year end, and they evaluate if they got there. Fast forward to today, things are just not that way any longer. So people are no longer creating year-long goals that they evaluate once a year and then look at the end of the year to see if they've completed the goal. The pace of today is moving much too fast to write one goal and check on it twice in the year. Once to check on it, the other time to see if you accomplished it. So take less time when it comes to planning your goal. And so I gave you the SMART acronym just to say that's the way a traditional goal was written, or the traditional goals that I was taught or learned were taught to do, how you put them together. So I'm not saying to throw all that knowledge out. Certainly that knowledge that you learned when you learned to make a SMART goal is relevant, and you can adapt it for today. But what I want to talk to you today about is reality. In reality, most small businesses or department heads and companies don't have the kind of time nor the manpower to go through a lengthy goal process. And sometimes you have to train your employees how to do a goal, and to spend the time teaching them how to create a SMART goal sometimes is not efficient for you. So the first tip that I wanted to share with you today is, when you're creating your goal, is you want to make sure that the goal that you're planning is simple and plain. Just write it in plain words. And what do I mean by that? Just say what you want to do. Just say it. So I want to give you examples in my 3 tips on how I would create a goal today and using the 3 tips. So I'm going to use the goal of creating this webinar. So, and I'm just going to read it really quick because I did write down how I would structure this goal. So and this is in my example, I will conduct a webinar on goal setting and planning made easy. Right? Simple enough. I think most of you know, when you read this and signed up to come to the webinar, you understood what you were signing up for. That's it. Everybody clear? So what was I going to do? I'm going to have a webinar on goal setting and planning made easy. That's the goal. So the second tip is to be realistic when planning. What do I mean by that? Just don't go out and try to figure out, unless it's a huge goal, what your budget is. I mean, 9 times out of 10, most of our goals we can really do without coming up with a huge budget, unless we're implementing a new program that we want to start in our business. So the second tip in my goal planning that I created for the goal of having a webinar on goal setting and planning made easy is to bullet point what needs to be done. So my example for what I put down for bullet pointing this webinar was create a date. What's the date of the webinar? And if I've never done a webinar before, and this is my second one, so I had some experience, but I'm still learning. So I did a Google search to see how to conduct a webinar. And I also spoke to two people that have been helping me along the way, Sharon with GPA MG and Cindy who works marketing. I spoke to them. Then I talked about who is my target? Who's going to attend this webinar? So that's a bullet point. My next thing is contact my helpers. So I had a conversation with Sharon. I had a conversation with Cindy. And then I also had a conversation with one of my younger people, my trusted advisors who do technology daily, one of my children. I created an agenda, and then I wrote a script. So that's another bullet point. And then, guess what? Today's the day for the webinar that I selected. So we are at the new year. I selected the webinar date for today, and here we are. So that is my second tip. Don't stress out about what you need to do and how to do it. The plan here is to create the goal, write down what you think needs to be done to accomplish your goal. So we have the first two tips, and now I'm going to go on to your third tip, and that's to determine start, stop, and then your evaluation points. So now I'm going to go slower here because I want you to catch the point that I'm going to make. I told you all that I was very new at webinars, and so that means I'm kind of new at writing what my tips are and in what particular order. And so as I was creating my script for this webinar, what I realized is that when I wrote my third tip, it wasn't something that I felt was solid. And when I say solid, I like the tip. I absolutely stand by it. I don't stand by the order in which I wrote how to start, stop, and evaluate, because I should have written evaluate, start, or stop. So, and I'm going to explain that to you right now, but I wanted to point that out so you can track with me as I go through the third tip. So, excuse me, let me get a sip of my Starbucks Blonde. Thank you. So here in this example for my third tip, determine your evaluation points or things you should start or stop. And when I say that, in the example that we've been using, my goal was to create a webinar. And then I was going to be realistic when the planning came done. So I made it plain, and I was realistic when I made the bullet points. And now I'm going to explain my third tip. So I wanted to evaluate. When you evaluate, did you meet the goal? So did I have the webinar? Absolutely, I did. I'm having it right now. You all are witnessing it. Number two, did I put together a plan? Yes. So it was posted out on Eventbrite. It was also set up on my Zoom so that I could hit the start button when the meeting started. I did some research on how to conduct webinars. And I also discussed and targeted the target market that I want to speak to, small business owners and small corporate department heads. So all of those things have been satisfied during my planning process. So I did meet that. So now I want to take the time to determine what I should start doing or add, however, whatever you want to use. Do I want to start adding this part, or do I want to start? I started today. Do I want to continue doing it? So do I want to add? Or are there things that I said, oh, I did that this time in the webinar, but it absolutely hated it, didn't work out well, so I'm going to stop it. So in this example, I am using the third bullet point of advertising for the webinar as my learning point or my evaluation point. So I hope you all are very clear on that. And I want you to know that I would change it to evaluate, start, or stop. Because it's very important that you evaluate along the way to see if what you're doing is really serving a goal or purpose for you. So at the end of the day, the bottom line is, did you achieve your goal on the time frame that you wanted to have it? Now, certainly, if you want to go more in depth or you want to be more specific, take the acronym SMART and really break it down, but don't be afraid to take the pieces that you need and leave the rest. It is not that serious right now. And when I say it's not that serious, the most important thing for a small business to do in today's environment is to actually start your goal. And I often find when people don't achieve goals, it's because you're taking so much time to make it perfect. And we don't live in a perfect world, and no one is perfect. So I want to just share with you, it's okay to just start your goal and learn from it and make it different if you have to. Don't be afraid that it may not turn out the way you want it 100%, because there's nothing saying that you cannot pivot or stop. And I'm saying pivot because that's right, the new word now, everyone's pivoting or everyone had to pivot, but it's okay for you to stop and evaluate at the end of your goal and say, hey, this wasn't quite what I wanted to do, and determine if you ever had to do that goal again, or is it something that you're going to continue on, and what you would do to make it different or how you would change it to make it better than it was the first time. So those are my 3 tips for today on when it comes to goal setting, planning made easy. 1, write it plain words. What is the goal? What are you gonna do? 2, be realistic when planning. So you want to make sure that you bullet point out everything that you're gonna do, and it should not be something that causes you any angst or stress. And if it does, then stop that and continue on with the make it realistic in your planning by bullet pointing. If that bullet point has 10 to-dos to it and it's not getting you closer to your goal, remove it. Remove it from your planning list and revisit it at a different time, because your whole the whole thing with setting a goal is to achieve something. And if you stay in the planning phase of your goal indefinitely, you're never going to meet the goal. So all of your worrying and all your over obsessing is for naught. So I want to encourage you to, and I know because I'm one of those people that likes to have everything just right before I do it. And when I wanted to do these webinars, I knew if I just didn't do it, it wasn't going to be successful. So take my advice when it comes to goal setting and do the first 3 tips. And I didn't go over the third one, so I'm going to start at the beginning and just read them again. Write it in plain words. Be realistic when planning, and determine your evaluation. In your evaluation, what you're going to continue doing, add when you started it, or what you're going to stop doing or take out of the process. I don't want you to throw away, again, your SMART training. I want you to utilize that, but utilize it when it's time for you to use it when it comes to your planning for your goals. Okay, so I want to share a couple things with you, and then I'm going to open it up for Q&A. My name's Lynette Phillips. I'm with Second to None Human Resource Services, and you can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, at Second to None Human Resources, Second to None Human Resource Services, or Second to None HR. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll see lots of videos, lots of useful videos on there on HR tips, and definitely my DE&I tip is coming up, or my diversity, equity, and inclusion tip. And that tip today is going to be, you can use this process that we just went through today to create a DE&I tip, right? So if you want to get DE&I active in your business, your small business, or your you want to make sure that you use this goal process and you want to try something that you can absolutely achieve, you can use it to create your DE&I in your organization. So I would say just start with inclusion. So make a plain goal on how you're going to be inclusive in your organization. 2, write down the bullet points that you're going to have to take or you're going to have to do to accomplish inclusion in your organization. And it doesn't have to be something grandiose. It just needs to be something that you're going to start and commit to doing. And the last thing you want to do if you're going to bring in DE&I is to evaluate it. Is what you brought to the organization working? Is it something that everyone is understanding and everyone is buying into? And if not, then what are you going to start or add to the process, or what are you going to take away? And always remember, you can reach out to individuals that can help you along your journey with starting DE&I. So at this time, I want to thank you again for joining this webinar, and I want to open it up for any question and answers. And if you want to look in the chat, everything is in the chat today. And if you want to reach out to me, reach out and or send, we can have a conversation about any questions you have that were discussed in the webinar today. Any questions? No questions today? I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign.
Good morning, Lynette. This is Sharon. I think I took a lot from this, and I think the main thing is that we do get overwhelmed with just doing a task, and then we tend not to do it because we don't try to make it plain. So I think the biggest thing is to just start the goal and keep it plain. And I feel like if I get into trying to do it the way someone else did it as far as the smart, method, I get overwhelmed, and then I'm spending more time trying to create this document than actually writing it plain and setting my goals and putting some action items behind it. So I appreciate that, because we sometimes get in the habit of, taking a method, running with it, and then we never complete it because we get so overwhelmed by it. So thank you for just taking it back to old school and just keeping it plain, using plain words.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Anyone else? All right, if I don't have any more questions, I want to take this time to thank everyone for attending. I really appreciate you being here. And if you know of anyone else that would be, would these talks, these webinars, or these videos will help, please send them our way. We are happy to work with them. And we're also very, very happy to share any knowledge that we have on any of these webinars that we are producing. The next one will be in 2 weeks. So be checking my LinkedIn or Facebook so you can sign up for the Eventbrite. And again, my name is Lynette Phillips. I'm with Second to None Human Resource Services, and I'm extremely happy that you shared this time with me today. Thank you so much and have a great day.